Good morning, Gainesville, Ocala. It is Saturday, May 18th, and you're listening to Dollars and Cents with your hosts, Jeff Davis and Chris Coleman. Jeff Davis, certified financial planner, president of Falcon Financial Management, creator of the integrated wealth management process, and a man recognized by Barron Magazine as one of the top 500 independent advisors in the country. Recently inducted into the University of Florida Athletic Hall of Fame in the category of wrestling. Hooray, hooray. My name is Chris Coleman. I'm a partner at Falcon Financial Management and someone very happy to be with you here today. Lisa Meadows, how are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm
too.
3/4 of the way into my cup of coffee.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
We're twins.
Living large, and we've got a bagel back there
Brother
this
and
morning.
sister from a different mother.
There we go. There we go. Mr. Davis, how are you today?
I'm good.
Outstanding, outstanding. I got to ask you about this IRS thing. I don't know where we're going today. Lots of times we come in here, and I guess they call it freestyle. Waka, waka, waka.
Waka, waka, waka.
What do you think of this IRS thing?
Well, I only know what I've seen on TV, and that's been very little. I haven't seen much TV in the last few days. Now that I think about it, so if it
Hope it's a good thing.
Yeah, I guess it is. Well, you don't even own a TV, do you?
No.
Yeah. Well, I own it, but I don't. I haven't had them on in 2 days, so
It's a quality dust collector.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of surface area.
large sort of great. But just been real busy, and so I've been reading about it, and I've watched some clips on. I watch a news aggregator that's called Real Clear Politics, Real Clear Money, realclear.com, and now, which is their new face page, or new page that you can open up everything with. It's a great aggregator, which means they collect articles from different parts of the world, different parts of the country, from different political persuasions. So there may be one article that says the IRS is evil, and another saying the IRS didn't make any mistakes. And there's certainly people that are trying to make the case that there weren't any mistakes. This isn't. I don't think that Mr. Obama was involved in plotting this, but people below him certainly took advantage of the American people. You cannot have the IRS doing what they did in these circumstances. And yesterday, I think that some of the testimony, the man who just resigned was actually in charge of that unit during the time that this happened. So it's not that he was, and we're going to find out more about who knew what, when they knew it, and things of that nature. And in any of these issues, these quote unquote scandals, it's always about trying to hide the mess that they made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how many times is it the cover up that creates the real problem?
He admitted under oath yesterday that he orchestrated the uncovering of all this.
Yeah.
That's
very
strange.
And the way they orchestrated it was,
yes.
Why do it the way they did it?
Why
not? There's just more questions than answers. It continues to be more questions than answers about what's going on. And more than anything else, what it does is the timing of it is so insidious, because we're just about to hand over a whole lot more responsibility to the IRS. They are the agency that's going to be collecting the data about all of the Affordable Care Act subsidies. If you're getting a raise, if you've changed jobs, what is the subsidy that you qualify for or don't qualify for, and communicating all of that kind of individual financial information to the human health services, and doing it on a confidential basis. Can they really do that?
Being trusted.
Can they be trusted? And so when you go back to all this whole gun legislation, one of the big things that I heard was, you can't trust the government. If we let them put their nose under, the camel nose under the tent, so to speak, that if we let them have this national register, then this, and how much, if they've got the names of everybody who's got guns, how come they can't go out and pick people out and say, we're going to take your guns? Well, that seems just to be, that can't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to happen. And people who want gun laws to restrict the amount of guns said, that can't happen. The government's not like that. Oops. AP, they've said that there's over 100 reporters now
bad news
that
for
they
free
have
press.
They went and looked at their phone records.
Who was the gentleman you had mentioned this morning? The one individual that they audited his business because
I don't remember his name. Fred Van something.
Mm-hmm.
He was.
Was it Ingram?
No, it started with a Van Horst or something like that. But he's from, I think, Montana, one of those places. Was a big contributor to the fight Obamacare and Tea Parties, and was one of. There was a time earlier last year in 2012 that there were certain names of contributors that were released, big contributors, the Koch brothers and people like that, and then they were criticized by the president, about their patriotism called into question. Well, one of them, and we're going to find out others. They audited him, then they audited his wife, then they audited his company. I think Franklin Graham said that the Graham Ministries were audited during this time, spent over $80,000 in fees to be able to prove that what they, and the things that they would ask him, how often do you pray and who do you pray to? Those aren't appropriate questions. The things that they asked were not appropriate. The fact that they were asking them, I don't think was appropriate. And there was certainly profiling. They targeted a certain number of people. To say that it wasn't illegal to do it just on this side is maybe it technically wasn't illegal. They put in some screens, but it was totally inappropriate. And we've got to trust them more than just about any other part of our government, because we give them all of our personal information, and we let them, they make some decisions about who's going to be, how much you're going to pay and who's going to pay it.
And I forgot his name too, but I'm trying to look it up. But wasn't he one of the ones on like question number 26 of the questionnaire for the Tea Party type people or conservatives? Do you have connections with him? And then under testimony yesterday, he was there. And he said, I didn't even know my name was on the list as a question.
It's frightening. I think that I don't think, like I said, I don't think Mr. Obama is the man who's responsible for this. Unlike, I think, some people said it's Nixonian. I don't think this is a Richard Nixon issue. But when you combine this, AP, Benghazi, and what's coming next, we've got this whole rollout of Affordable Care Act over between now and the end of the year. And that's a big deal, as, Mr. Joe Biden said, this is a big effing deal. And it is because, I had some folks in my office yesterday, and they're talking about, they've got some disability issues. Are they going to be able to, can they retire? One of the things that's holding up, she's had one knee replaced, has to have the other knee replaced. Can she do her job, which may require her to run in a difficult situation? So I think that there's a good possibility that she can qualify for some disability, but you never know until you go through the process whether they're going to do it or not. But one of the holdups would be health insurance. What would be the cost of their health insurance? Could they afford health care? And, he's got a lot of health problems, and she's got a lot of health problems. Both of these folks are, in a situation where they need their health insurance. They need the coverage. They need the medicine just to be able to live and survive. So one of the things we talked about, I don't know what it's going to be, but Affordable Care Act after January 1st, they should be qualifying for one of these exchanges and subsidies. I don't know how the subsidies are going to work yet, but I would think that they were going to qualify. And now Florida is part of the program, so they'll get a subsidy, and the exchange should be in place. But we don't know for sure whether they're going to be able to get them all in place, how they're going to be determining subsidies, how they're,
I'm not sure how the concept of the exchange is supposed to work.
Essentially, it's only going to have one option right now, but the exchange was supposed to have, half a dozen options for you to choose from HMOs to PPOs,
Mm-hmm.
health maintenance organizations to the professional physician organizations.
But I mean, it was the basic concept that by having this exchange and bringing all these companies together, created a competitive environment that
Right.
was going to drive the cost down. Is that the
Right,
basic concept?
Right. And in these exchanges, they're still state by state. So that's one of the things that there were. We could spend all day talking about the Affordable Care Act. There's other things that we need to talk about today.
Here.
But
Rabbit hole.
Yeah, the Affordable Care Act has so many pieces to it. It is such a complicated process that nobody knows. Even the people who are doing it, they're making it up as they go.
We did our leadership Gainesville tour this past week, and we spent our time at Shands and at North Central Florida, and the topic came up with the new changes in healthcare. What are your expectations? And they all seem to have a real sense of the unknown. We're not sure what the effects of that's going to be. We were at the transplant over at a Chance, and for liver and for heart, we have these two heads of the surgical department, and they're talking about the success rate or everything. But then when we start to talk about how is this going to affect transplants going forward, there's that sense of we're not really sure yet. And I'm not dinging the doctors or the hospital at all. I think it's just the scope and the volume of it. They don't know what the unintended consequences are going to be.
I'm not a person that's I'm not against a universal health insurance. There's just right now we've got too many issues with the medical system as it is. So if you don't have health insurance, you go to the emergency room. They got to cover you. So people are using the emergency rooms on Friday nights and Saturday nights as clinics virtually. Especially Shands, where if you don't have health insurance, that's where you can go and you can be seen by a physician in the emergency room. So there's how does that how do we provide care for people who've got health problems that didn't have health insurance? If everybody's in the pool and everybody's getting has health insurance, it's got to change the way the dynamics of care are provided and the cost, because the dynamics of the care are dependent on whether or not you're private pay, insurance, or no pay. So there's not a consistency. Now, if you've got money, there's always going to be options for you. If you don't have money, there's really no options for you. I do not believe that you can say that health insurance is a right. It's not. The Bill of Rights says what our rights are. That's it. If it's not in the Constitution, if it's not in the Bill of Rights, then add it to the Bill of Rights. Make an amendment, add it to the Bill of Rights. Say that education is a right. Health insurance is a right, and then I agree. Until they appear on the Bill of Rights, it's a good intention, and I don't mind it being a good intention. And as a good intention, we want to try and do it as economically as we can, and we want to cover as many people as we can. But it's still a good intention. It's not a right. Now, from that good intention, I think our country would be better off by having everybody having access to health insurance. I think you've got to have a single payer system. It's going to come out of your check just like Medicare and FICA do. And that's what happens in some of these other countries. For example, Germany. Your bill for your health insurance might be 20% of your income or 15% of your income, but that's what it is, and it's deducted from your check. You're going to live on less. We have one of the things about America is and it didn't happen overnight. It was a slow tacking, a degree by degree by degree by degree, and things that we redlined and said we will not do these things. Well, we made an exception, and when we made that exception for the rule, nothing bad happened. And then we made another exception because nothing bad happened when we made a little bit of an exception, and then we made a little bit of an exception, and now some of those exceptions have become the actual rules. So one of the things that we've got to that's happened in terms of those kind of exceptions is that we've come to accept that some people don't have care,
Mm-hmm.
and it hasn't broken us. We've had some people who have really good health insurance, and they can afford it, and that hasn't broken the system. Or at least we don't sense it. But in reality, it has. The system is too disparate, and it happened, as I said, degree by degree. So that today, where you look at, for example, the transition from save your money and then buy something, layaway, savings, then buy it, to buy it and then pay it at, sometimes 9, 15, 20, 29% interest. And so instead of buying something that's a depreciating asset, you buy a television, it's worth less as every day. So if you bought it and you're paying for a 29% credit card.
You were talking about bit by bit, piece by kind of like turning the water up on how do you boil
Sure.
the frog, and it never knows it's being boiled bit by bit. Then the transition to purchasing things instead of layaway or savings to using credit cards to the tune of anywhere from 17 to 29%.
And then you take this one step farther. Now, you've used up your credit cards, or we've got some issues with credit cards. We went to our houses.
Mm-hmm.
And we used them like ATMs, and people took the money out of them. People who paid off their house. And, I was talking to a good friend of mine this week, and he was expressing a little bit of outrage that so many people are going, woe is me, when they had a house that was paid for. And then, so they've paid it off once. Now they've borrowed the money, found themselves upside down, and are going to lose this house. Well, in reality, that second loan that they're not going to pay back, they cashed out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to say that they've gotten their money back out of the house, but they got their money out of the house and they used it for something else, and they can't use it for another house.
Mm-hmm.
So, we used the ATM. Now, this problem is that people have discovered, and I talked about this in 2008, they discovered that they can take a loan from their 401k. They can take a loan from their 403B. They can take a withdrawal. They've got to pay a 10% penalty if they're under 59.5. They've got to pay income tax on it. But they can take a loan. They don't have to pay income tax on it. Nobody knows. You sign a form, boom, you get your $5,000 and you take care of it. But you got $5,000 less in your retirement. And now you're going to pay it back with after-tax dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So you earn $100, pay tax on it so that you can write the check for $100 to pay the loan back. You put it back into your tax-deferred investment. It gets mixed up, and when it gets paid back to you again at the end, you're going to pay income tax on the money again. You pay income tax on it's a terrible deal to borrow money from your 401ks and your 403bs. It's a terrible deal to withdraw from them. There are not savings accounts. And too often we're seeing that. Now, we've seen several people, and I know that, as a matter of fact, next week I'm seeing someone who was listening to our radio show and has been listening to some of the things that we've talked about in terms of 401ks and 403bs. And my passion that you need to use your 401ks and your 403bs, that we are passionate about. She handed me a note. She was doing it so discreetly, and I read it. And
You're seeing someone this week who listened to the radio show
about the
borrowing from four.
Well, if you've got 401ks, and a lot of people have one here, have one there. When you have a 401k with an employer, and let's say that they're using the Fidelity investment platform.
Mm-hmm.
Now they decide they want to use the Vanguard investment platform. All they are going to do is switch from Fidelity to Vanguard, and you don't have any options except for going from Fidelity to Vanguard. And then they're going to try and match up your Fidelity funds with something similar at Vanguard. May not be what you want, but it's what you're going to get. They're going to send you a letter, say, this is what we're going to do. If we don't hear from you, this is what we're going to do, a negative consent letter. So they're following all the rules. But you've lost control of your 401k. You've lost control of your 403b. You don't want to leave those with your employers. If you have 2 or 3 IRAs and you have a 401k here and a 403b there, you got 5 different accounts. You're trying to keep track of how much money have we got for retirement. How many times people come to see us and they bring me a stack of statements. They've never really spent a lot of time adding them up. They don't know exactly what's going on with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what the investment philosophy beneficiaries. There's a lot of stuff to keep up with when you have 4 or 5 of these investments, and every one of them is charging you a fee.
And each one of those accounts has a tendency to drift away from its original, allocation. The idea of, does your portfolio and your investments meet you and your risk tolerance, the way you like to, how much risk you'd like to subject yourself to?
Well, unless you're a student of the game, you're not going to know.
Yeah.
Is this a risky mutual fund, or is this a mutual fund that doesn't have very much risk? Well, how do you get that information? Where's the secret? And if you the secret's not a secret. It's out there, and it's easy to find if you know what you're looking for. But do you want to invest the time? And one of the things that we've talked about is that, if you had $100,000 investment, how often should you look at it? Should you look at it once a month for an hour, go over it, make sure it's doing what you want it to do? Well, how much do you earn an hour? If you earn $50 an hour and you spend an hour every month, then you're spending $50 every month. You're spending $600 a year of your time looking over your investments. Can you hire somebody, a professional, to do it for that or maybe a little more? We charge 1%, 1.25 if it's an IRA. So we charge we're going to charge you $1,200 to oversee, provide reporting, to oversee the investments, to make changes for you, to meet with you twice a year to go over your investments. Well, what's that worth? If you're going to spend $600 and you're going to have to figure it out for yourself, and that's assuming you only spend 1 hour a month. If you're really going to oversee your investments, you're probably going to spend more than 1 hour a month. Or you're going to spend 1 hour a year, and you're just going to hope that they turn out okay. We spend more time studying how I'm going to buy my next car, how I'm going to buy the television, what should I buy an iPad, or should I buy this, or should I buy this? You go through all of this data gathering. If you don't satisfy your retirement goals, you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to retire the way you want to retire. So you've got to invest some time. You got to establish goals. Another thing that we talk about is, when you don't manage your own 401ks, IRAs, and 403bs, do you really know how much risk that you're taking? We alluded to this, but one of the questions that I met with someone yesterday, he's 70 years old. How much risk should we take in their portfolio? That's the question. Mm-hmm. Well, if I look in the mirror, I see an 18-year-old guy. I can take a lot of risk. The reality.
Do they know what that really means? That's what I often find. No, I can handle risk. Okay, well, if your portfolio lost 25 to 30%, are you going to be comfortable with that? No. Mm-hmm. Do you know what that really means?
Mm-hmm. And so when you look at the portfolios, and somebody says, my goal to reach my goals, I need to get a 6% return. Well, when is enough enough? If 6% is going to help you reach your goals, then why do we want to take the risk of trying to get a 10% return just to get a little more money? Mm-hmm. Because it's a two-edged sword. What goes up goes down. This is simple math. You cannot get away from the fact that statistically there's something that we call reversion to the mean. You have an average return, the mean of what returns have been. Returns have been higher, returns have been lower. If the average returns are lower, reversion to the mean says that lower returns will move up to the mean. Higher returns will mean that your returns will go down so that they meet So when the stock market is up, it's going to go down. When the stock market is down, it's going to go up. You have to understand that. And then you apply a second layer of math that's called standard deviations. How big of a standard deviation? That's how big of a wave you can have.
Yeah.
Up and down. How big of a standard deviation can you live with? Because you may not be able to live with the negative standard deviation. And I hate to start talking about math, standard deviations and reversions to the mean. But this is these are irrefutable laws of math. Mm-hmm. You aren't going to, no matter how smart you are, you aren't going to outsmart these rules. So when you talk about reversion to the mean, you talk about standard deviation. With the understanding reversion to the mean and standard deviation will help you organize your portfolio. Because if the standard deviation is 20 on either side, can I live with that negative 20% to be able to have the high of 20%? I want the potential to get to 20, then I've got to have the potential to go down 20. If I say, move that up, I can only withstand a standard deviation of a negative 10, then that means we're limiting the upside. I can't protect the downside of your investments. And then when the momentum of the stock market is like we've just seen it, I can't get all of that momentum. It's just not going to happen. So you have to identify whether risk management or highest return is going to be what your goal is. If managing the risk, providing a consistent long-term return, protecting your capital and creating income is what your goal is, that's what we specialize in. If you're out there looking for the highest possible return, I'm strap me to the rocket. I'm ready to go. First of all, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, to the moon, Alan.
Nope. I've been in this business long enough that I've been strapped to the rocket. We're going to chase these returns early in my career, and then I found out, wow, the whipsaw effect is not fun. When this market goes down, everybody's unhappy. Did we survive? Yes. But if you look at, we're just getting to the point where long-term clients are, we're starting to see a 3 to 5% average return for the last 12, 13 years. Mm-hmm. That's been a long time. We converted our software on April of 2000. So we lost all of our historical return data. When you make a change in this kind of software, it's almost impossible to get the past history and bring it forward. Maybe you can do it for a few clients, but you can't do it on a wholesale basis. The software just isn't that sophisticated yet. So, boom, when we made that decision, when we made the conversion in April of 2000, I didn't know I was doing that at the top of the market. So we've been measuring all of our clients' returns since the top of the market, and all that happened after April of 2000 is everybody lost money.
Twice.
Three times. We lost it in 2000, 2001, 2002, and I'm tracking this all the way down for clients during that time frame, and it's affected all of the returns ever since. But I see returns that are everybody's made money. We don't have negative balances, negative returns anymore, and it's taken a long time to do that. And organizing your portfolio to meet those kind of risks. She said 15 seconds.
Did she? Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, good news.
Yeah. So I guess I should shut up.
Oh, you've done a great job, man. Hey, if you'd like to give us a call at Falcon, the phone number is 352-375-7977. That's 352-375-7977. Or check us out on the web at www.ffmonline.com.
Excellent. I hope that you'll also join us in a couple of weeks. In June the 11th, we're going to be having our next Planning for Life workshop.
Look forward to seeing you there, folks.
Thanks. Oh, and hey, one more thing. Happy birthday to the Hippodrome. 40th birthday today.
All right.
Go Gators.